Close enough. 5 minutes late, whatever. We're still here for you, Summer. Okay. Now I'm unmuted. Um, so Summer Moon Utah Wells is still missing. She was reported missing June 15th, 2021 around 6:30 p.m. from the 100 block of Ben Hill Road in the Beech Creek community of Hawkins County, Tennessee. There is still an active Amber Alert for Summer Wells. She is likely 3.5 feet tall and around 40 pounds. She has blonde hair, which was shaved at the time of her disappearance, and bright blue eyes. Jodi Sue Brown was Summer's neighbor at the time of her disappearance. She has inserted herself in Summer's case since day one, minute one. Before the police arrived, Jodi was already helping search for Summer. She allegedly went out to mess with her flowers and heard people calling for Summer, and she knew when she heard more than 3 calls that something was wrong. And so she went to help search. She took the creek while the others took the bank. She says there are witnesses to her just being a witness. Jodi Sue Brown came on General Awareness's Live October 20th of 2022. She starts off talking about how she was not a suspect. She says Ronnie Lawson hasn't named one person of interest. Jodi says the FBI told her and her family they are not suspects. Although we know Ronnie Lawson has publicly stated everyone is a suspect. She says Benny Keys is calling in false information. She says Benny is harassing her and causing her all kinds of trouble. Jodi says she had an episode earlier in the day with her health. There she goes, talking about how she's got an episode with her health and trying to get sympathy. In my opinion, sorry. She says she wasn't feeling too good, starts talking about Tragedy Pimpville and how it hasn't been real cool around there lately. Rap says it seems like they just want to exploit Jodi. She says tragedy pimps, aka Tiffany Marie, Fizzle, and Benny, all of which are people that I love, that I have seen fight for answers for Summer since day one. And that Jodi hates. And she says they're all lying and putting out narratives about her. If you pay attention, you will see this is exactly what Jodi does, is put out narratives. Rap asks, how close were you to Don and Candace? Jodi says, we weren't super close. We didn't go to holidays and events and stuff like that together. You deal with your direct neighbor in this area, emergency situations, you go back and forth. Over the years, Candace came over off and on, etc., etc. If someone was at the bottom of the driveway, you would see them, or if they needed something. Then obviously, Andy was over there quite a bit more often, says Jodi. She says Andy went over to the Wells property for pot purposes, but she thinks maybe there was more to it than that. She says a lot has come out in the wash since they were last together, and she doesn't know what all precisely went on. Jodi says if Candace was giving the boys pot, why not Summer? This is a video that I made a while back.
Selling drugs to the children while he was potentially causing little girls over there to be sedated and to be touched with the shit he was selling over there.
But Jodi says she did not say this about Summer.
Selling to the actual children, over there. But then that Candace was getting it for the kids too.
If this is true, we know you didn't report it.
So you go ask him why he was selling drugs to those children. And to Candace for the children. Go ask. And ask him what type other than weed. And what else he was selling or doing at the time, I don't know. But I do know it was the last few days. It was pretty much a fucking confirmation that he was using coke and meth.
At this point, I don't believe her about Andy at all. Still don't. And I think Jodi's the one that's high all the time. Still do.
The young one and sedate them.
Sedating them.
And for what purpose? And normally it was teen boys that sedate them.
And she says sedating them, and she says, and ask him what type other than pot. So she is saying sedatives.
That was part.
What are you insinuating?
There's all kinds of little ones suddenly staying.
Suddenly?
That it was damn near retirement. And that one little girl was over there for months, dude. And those other little ones over there, God only knows what's going to happen to them.
But you did nothing.
But I haven't got that.
At least Andy got you gone.
It plays a role in what was happening to other little girls over there. And I very much do think that it could be part of why Summer looks so sweet.
You act like you care now, but it's too late.
He would have had the proof everybody else who called in didn't. It's that simple. But he hid it from everybody. He fucking hid it. Why? After she vanished, then he tells me he watched him beat her. Never said a fucking word.
But she can call LE over a red truck driving by, but she won't call LE over something like this.
So, but he hid the abuse happening this summer. And he may have very well helped with other very bad things. Or he wouldn't have hid the abuse happening to her. He wouldn't have turned a blind eye when we kept seeing her pull at herself and stuff.
Sounds like Jodi's the one that turned a blind eye then.
In some of the last days before she vanished, he wouldn't have.
This fucked up Jodi.
He wouldn't have bitched at me. He wouldn't have slept just fine. He wouldn't have been beating the shit out of me, telling me shut the fuck up about Summer.
Shut the fuck up about Summer.
Sleeping just fine while she was gone. I never even really seen him spank the kids or anything. But he watched full-on abuse over there. And told me so. But only after Summer vanished. That's why he was so certain they had murdered Summer.
Who did what to Summer, Jodi? Damn.
Those little ones, something was happening to them over there. Yeah. And I found about a few days before all the shit went down. I'm not kidding, dude. And I got the fucking receipts on it. And I'm sure law enforcement does as well.
We won't ever give up on you, Summer. Jodi says she never said this. She says she was talking only about weed and that it could have a sedating effect. Although, we all heard her say, go ask him what type other than weed. Jodi says she babysat all the Wells kids. She said she would watch the kids when Candace went to work with Don or pick them up from the bus stop or whatever. There were a few times she made dinner for the kids and stuff, like when Summer was in the hospital. She had something like RSV, Jodi says, an upper respiratory infection when she was a baby. Candace kept messaging asking Jodi what to do for Summer and Jodi told her she needed to be seen by a doctor, so Candace took her in, according to Jodi. She said Candace would message her on Facebook Messenger and sent her pictures of how Summer was doing. She said when she babysat, it would depend if she babysat at her house or the Wells house. Sometimes they would come to her house and sometimes she would go there. She said the boys preferred to be at her house because she had video games and stuff there. She says they were all rough with each other because they're country kids. Summer was just as country as everyone else, and Jodi says Summer was the youngest, so like all kids, she got picked on the most. But she was just as fiery as they were. Jodi says it's possible Summer was taken off the property by a stranger or someone that she knew. She says the chances of it being someone just passing by and taking the chance? No. Jodi says her gut tells her, especially since her and her brothers looked so much alike, it had been someone that had been around her for at least a couple of days. Yeah, it didn't make sense to me either at first. Maybe she's saying for someone to have wanted Summer specifically, it would have had to have been someone that knew her because she looked so much like her brothers and they were all playing together. The chances of it being a stranger would be slim, Jodi says. Jodi says she lived in that area for 3 or 4 years in one property, then about 10 years at 125. So, she had been in the Beech Creek area of Ben Hill for almost 15 years. Jodi says she was familiar with 125 for about 3 decades and Ben Hill itself pretty much her whole life. She says she has family down in Beech Creek. She says she knows the area and she knows the terrain. She says 125 belonged to the family of Andy for over 200 years. She talks about the property. She says she knows it all. Says she knows most of Ben Hill and has been familiar with 125 itself most of her life. Jodi says when Summer went missing, they were neighbors, and Booger, meaning Damien, her son, was there. Jodi asks that nobody use her children's names, although Damien is an adult. Damien heard an animalistic sound, according to what he said on the news. Jodi says he did not mean that it was an animal. He said it was animalistic, but not an animal. Jodi says it was so different. She said her first thought was the kids. It's the kids, she thought. She said the way she heard the sound, it was so bright and everything. She said she never knew for Summer to be that far away or down that far to where that bright of a noise would come from her. Jodi says in her mind, she thought about it and was like, that's not the boys. She says she has heard them mad, upset, giggling, laughing, the whole nine. Jodi even took video of the loud sounds the children were making at 110 Ben Hill on their four-wheelers and dirt bikes and such because it drove her nuts. She said it definitely wasn't the boys. She says she knew it wasn't an animal because she has cornered a big cat and she has heard all the animals back in the holler, and it wasn't any of those. She said she cornered a big cat a couple nights after Summer went missing. She says that thing was pissed off at her. She said even that big cat yelling at her did not stop her in her tracks that day the way the scream did, although she didn't think to check what it was. She says they were inside the cabin when they heard the scream. Jodi says Tragedy Pimpville made up the stuff about Damien Bernard sneaking around Beech Creek and being a peeping Tom. She says her children were both featured as minors in stolen videos. She said the first blackmail push was they were going to make her son look like a murderer if she didn't go over to Tiffany's or BK's live. That's Tiffany Marie and Benny Keys. She's all over the place. Jodi says that was by Fizzle. She says it has continued that way. She says it was Cam that kicked it in, and he even ended up verifying that it was false about Jodi's 19-year-old son Damien being a peeping Tom. Then she says the event Cam was talking about was months after Summer vanished. She said that people are trying to make things what they're not. She says her and her son are welcome to go back and forth around there, and they have no need to sneak around. She says it's ridiculous and stupid, and it's awful what they've done. Although I don't think the accusations were necessarily about her son sneaking around. I think they were about him being a peeping Tom. She says the narratives, the lines, the twists. It's not the first time they've targeted my children, Jodi says. She talks about Cam setting a cycle in, making it seem like all these people, Cam and Allie, Tiffany Marie, she did it about AB when he was still around, and Fizzle and Benny. She does it to all of them. They're all Tragedy Pimpville to her, and she makes them all seem like they're abusers and that they're setting in cycles of abuse against her and her children when she at any point could just simply log off or use her platform to show Summer's picture at least and actually try to help find Summer rather than just try to figure out what everyone is talking about and talking shit about what everyone is talking about. Jodi allegedly has her own daughter as a moderator on her channel, so if that tells you anything. Jodi talks about the last time that she saw Summer in person. She says that she feels like it's the night with the shower thing. She says in her head the shower and all that was the last time she saw her. She says Andy saw her the night before she vanished. Says Dobbs was down there the day before she vanished too. She says one of the puppies fell down the bank and the kids were trying to get it. To me, it sounds like Jodi is the one pushing narratives. She is trying to give people reasons why there could have been an accident. She mentions the big cat that was around that was mad and the puppy falling, and just a thought. Jodi says the way she was parked, she could see Summer in the top story with the way the lighting was. She says Summer was beating on the glass door wanting a towel. She said she could see Don's shadow behind Summer. She said a lot of people have confirmed that Don and Summer showered together. She says she didn't directly see Summer in the shower with Don, that she just assumed. She said she was up at the top of the driveway, not inside the house. So, hold on a second. If Jodi's really lying about the last time she saw Summer, why would she lie about that? You know what I'm saying? Like, when was really the last time you saw Summer? Because it really seems like she's lying about the last time that she saw Summer, because she's said two different things about the last time that she's seen Summer, and she acts like she can't really remember for sure. Why would she lie about that? That's a huge red flag to me. Hi, Marlena. I'll be frank. Sue. Who said what? Um, Nature lover. If you guys aren't subbed up to Nature lover, she is awesome. She does really cool work and she works really hard. Um, yeah, Jodi Sue Brown lies about everything, I know. She said she honestly doesn't remember what she went up there for the day when she supposedly saw Summer and Don showering together, which that turned into, oh, I didn't see them in the shower together. I just kind of seen the shadow and the silhouette and I put two and two together. So it's like, okay, you're obviously lying. But why would she lie about that? About the last time she's seen Summer? When was really the last time you saw her, Jodi? She said she honestly doesn't remember what she went up for that day, even. So it sounds like she wasn't even there. She says you lose little things like that along the way. Things get brighter and more solidified, she says. I'm skipping around a little bit. Obviously, this is not verbatim what she says. Rapp asks if she knows if Don Wells drugged any of the kids. She said she knows obviously Candace was giving the kids pot and over-the-counter stuff. She says at least pot, things like that. She says what really went on for sure, we don't know. Jodi says she worries. It's a thought. It's one of those things. You wonder, she says. Rapp asks if she was in the creek at all, and she says that she was. And he says, what were you doing in the creek? And she says, looking for Summer. Jodi says it was technically after the police were called. She said they were too many calls for Summer, so she went over to the cliff-like piece and looked down over the ridge and thought, okay, I don't see her there, and didn't see her at the side of the hilltop thing. So she walked over to Candace's and hollered up at Candace that she was down there looking, even though she knew Candace couldn't hear her. So she kept searching for Summer because she thought it was going to be a waste of time to stand there and try and holler at Candace to let her know she's searching for Summer when she knew Candace couldn't hear her. So she said she carried on to the right and went down to the tunnel and looked inside of that. She said the right side was kind of dry, even though she said it rained the day or two before on the other lives. And there was really no need to look. You could just see it visually that she wasn't there. So she stepped over to a spot that's notorious for needles and junkies. She looked over in that area and she heard Candace coming up the driveway. She said that's when it sounded like Candace was arguing with someone because she heard loud voices. It ended up being Dawn on the phone to Candace. So she stepped out to that area and Candace stopped, and they had a quick interaction. She thought Candace was arguing with someone, but it was Dawn on the speakerphone saying, so you're telling me someone took my baby girl? She says she remembers Candace's face vividly when she said Summer's missing. Jodi said to Candace, look, I heard the scream earlier. I'm sorry, I didn't know. She was saying she shouldn't have dismissed the scream, but she said now, here is Candace looking for Summer. Then Candace goes on around the curve and runs into another neighbor, and she says she can see them through the brush. She said they asked her where they wanted to search, and she said she would take the creek since she was in flip-flops and already down there, and the neighbor and Candace took the bank. Rapp asks, do you know whose phone Candace was on? Jodi says she doesn't know. It was a thick black case on it. Jodi says she was out messing with some flowers, trying to rush Andy home at 6:09 p.m. before she lost all connection with the internet. And that's when she heard people hollering for Summer. Wow. So you lose all connection with the internet right at 6:09, the very minute that you start searching for Summer. Interesting. She said there has been too many calls and she knew that something was wrong. She said the scream and the way everyone was yelling for Summer, she put two and two together and was like, oh shit, this isn't right. She's never heard them have to call for Summer or any of the kids this many times before. Maybe 10 calls before she would unhide from the top of the hill, but not like this. She said as the boys were all coming back around from searching for Summer, Candace was yelling at them, what did you do? What did you do? And they were like, nothing, Mama, I swear. When the cops came in, it was around the same time when she reached the boys. The cops came in as soon as she saw Andy coming in. The first two were coming in as Andy was coming in, says Jodi. Rapp asked Jodi if Don and Andy were there before the cops came in, and she said no. The first two were coming in as Andy was coming in, and they were hauling ass, and she knew it was them coming in. She says if you're in there, you know signs of them coming for a long time prior. She says Andy comes in and talks to Candace. She doesn't actually answer the question about Don and Andy, if they got there before the cops. She says Andy was in her Kia Soul. Then she says Don comes in and sees us, myself, and the boys. So I'm assuming she is saying Don got there after the first two police officers arrived. She says she tells Andy Summer is missing. Then Don comes over in the Subaru and sees them all, her and the boys. She said they all kind of converged and talked on the road. She then starts talking about the caterpillar that she has been crawling all over her the entire stream. She goes on about how she got the caterpillar and how she bonded with it a little and she still had it since noon that day, and it was like 7 or something at night. She says then one interesting bit of information. She mentions how the caterpillars are supposed to be darker for the colder the winter is supposed to be. She goes on and on about her caterpillar.
Nice. So back to the creek real fast. Was there anybody down on the creek with you that were on horses at all?
No.
No. Okay, I kind of heard that, but
they put that in there too.
So Frank wasn't down there with y'all searching too?
Oh,
He's asking if Frank Light was down there helping search, and she's like, no. That'd be kind of alarming. But wait, wasn't he?
Okay.
and it's falsely put in as some sort of nonsense by local YouTubers that were here very early on and came directly to Tragedy. It's very weird, the situation there.
Yeah, they do like to.
I don't even know what she's talking about right there, to be completely honest with you. I mean, I get what she's saying, like, no, Tragedy Pimpville came here and just made that up. What? No. He was asking.
Spin things and twist things and, you know, make new narratives, you know.
You could literally be like, this imaginary group of people made up whatever, because it's an imaginary group of people that you're just keep collectively throwing all these creators into. The more and more that you find that you don't like, you throw them into this Tragedy Pimpville category, and that's not even what they're doing. That's what you're doing, Jodi.
Investigations where they don't belong.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there was no need to involve Frank Light in any of this. I don't get it, quite frankly.
So you don't think he has any involvement with anything?
Look,
She seems really uncomfortable talking about Frank Light.
all the stuff they put out and the person doing it has put out has been bullshit about him. As far as, I mean, yeah, he really does have that criminal record on it, right? And they put out that him and I are friends. Or something. Look, I don't even know. Like, I may have been around it here and there a couple times throughout the years. I don't know.
Why do I almost feel like she edges on defending pedophiles? She, like, literally edges on defending them, because she, like, nearly was almost defending Brandon Lawson, it felt like.
But as far as hanging out or partying, I think they even put us at Hog Wild hanging out. At times that was not true either. Like, he and I aren't friends. Anybody with that type of record, we ain't buddies or pals.
I would hope not.
Right.
They just never gonna happen.
The popular question in the chat's been, have you ever met Tim Mullins?
Oh, this is great.
No, and I've been warned by people around the case itself. I'll go.
No
Stay away
go.
from him.
Yeah. Stay away from Tim Mullen. My goodness. I don't even want to say the name Tim Mullen because then the trolls will start coming out. Summer's picture. See, Jodi, it's not hard to do. It's really easy to show Summer's picture. And I'm not tragedy pimping. Jodi says Candace is still being terrorized. She says she hopes Candace is doing better and seeing her boys. She says she wouldn't say whether she knew if Candace was on the hill or not. When asked by Rap's chat was like, hey, do you know if Candace is still on the hill? And she was like, well, I wouldn't tell you whether I knew or not. So, because she's afraid people are going to go terrorize and harass her. Right. Or because she wants to make it seem like she knows something that nobody else knows. That's probably more like what it is, if you ask me. But anyways, Jodi says she doesn't know who is responsible for Summer's disappearance, and no matter how she feels about Don and Candace, she has to work past certain things. Jodi says every day she tries to put pieces of that puzzle together and take pieces out to make it make sense. She says she's been there long enough to know and says there's scientific evidence of how she could have heard a scream and nobody else heard it because of how the land is in Beech Creek. Jodi says 125 had testing done to prove that property can hear sounds that other properties can't. Jodi says that every day she tries to figure it out. She says whatever that noise was, it wasn't mechanical, it wasn't the boys. She said she tried to excuse it with a door slam when the woodcutters had cut out early. Jodi thought, well, maybe one of the dogs got too close to the woodcutters, and she thought, no, that couldn't have been a dog. She said then that the noise was just so different. Then Jodi starts talking about the search again and how she is just a witness. She says there are witnesses to her just being a witness. Even though, for all we know, Summer could have went missing June 14th or even just earlier in the day on the 15th. So the people that she are saying saw her as a witness that day wouldn't know she was just a witness unless they were taking her word for it that she is, or those people are suspects also. You know what I'm saying? Therefore, in my mind, making Jodi's statements about there being witnesses to her being a witness unfounded.
Right.
Like, I have eyes and ears on me the whole time. There are witnesses to us just being witnesses.
Yo, main girl.
And that's what this place doesn't want to.
So what are you a witness of, though? That's what I'm confused about.
Like, I mean, you can't say, like, I mean, there's things that they, right? Like, you see, you hear, etc.
Right.
Like, I have eyes and ears on me the whole time. There are witnesses to us just being witnesses.
So she has eyes and ears on her the whole time. There's witnesses to them just being witnesses. Tell me how much sense that makes. Then you're all suspects, right?
And that's what this place doesn't want to.
So what are you a witness of, though? That's what
I think this is what Ronnie Lawson means when he says you're all suspects.
I'm confused about.
Like, I mean, you can't say, like, I mean, there's things that they, right? Like, you see, you hear, etc. You're witness, eyewitness, you get what I'm saying? But all of us that day, when you're in anything like this and you have any part of it, I mean, you're going to be.
When you're in anything like this and you have any part of it, I don't know why, but it bothers me when she says that.
Like, witness, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You're not going to
No, if you have a part of it, that makes you a suspect, not a witness.
be like, well, it doesn't matter that all these things or, connections to or whatever, so.
Notice all the mumbling and stumbling over her words. I think it's because she's trying to think of the right thing to say because she's lying. She's making stuff up.
I mean, that's what we've been told is witness only and not suspects.
So was it Candace?
That's
or
what you've been told by who?
her mom who came and told you we need help to find Summer?
Nobody came and told me they needed help to find Summer.
So how did you know to go search the creek?
Well, that's what I told you earlier. Is that I was
She's irritated.
already going down the driveway, heard them.
So you just knew automatically you needed to go look for Summer?
Yeah, I mean, if you all heard your neighbors yelling abnormally for a child that you know, and you're like, okay, this is more than 3 calls, wouldn't you be like, oh, hell yeah, something's...
Right, I remember you telling me about that. So did you communicate with Candace, like, hey, I'm going to go search the creek, or how did that go?
I mean, I just went over that with you, but, I tried to yell up at her to let her know I was, looking around for Summer. She couldn't, so I went on...
This is what I already was talking about earlier, how she tried to, she was out messing with her flowers, and she seen that they were up there on the hill, and she could hear them hollering for Summer, and that's how she initially started searching for Summer.
Down, whatever, but then, as soon as we ran into one another, type thing, when I heard her come down the driveway.
Remember, Jodi Sue Brown was the first person outside of the hill to be searching for Summer. Like, she knew before the cops even knew. You know what I'm saying? She was right there, right on it. And her story about, oh, I was texting with Andy and blah, blah, blah. And then he was going to make me wait, and I didn't feel like waiting. So I said, okay, whatever. I'm going to go out and mess with the flowers. And that was supposedly her way of trying to get him to hurry up and come back. So for some reason, that story just seems so made up to me. And I feel like, man, it seems like so obvious that she's lying sometimes and that she knows more. And it just irks me. And I'm becoming obsessed over listening to what she's saying, because I feel like eventually she's going to tell on herself, whether she even means to or not. And I think she knows exactly what happened to Summer Wells. I really do.
Made sure I was visible. We had the interaction. I was like, I'm looking, whatever. And she went on, and then she ran immediately into the other neighbor. The other neighbor immediately came and, we went searching together. So.
Which neighbor was that?
I'm not giving out their name or anything. They want to be left alone. They've asked repeatedly to be left alone, and the cops are very well aware of who they are. And
I think we all know who that is by now.
Everything else. But they have asked times to not be messed with and to be left entirely alone. And they're very good. So, and I would.
Why? Because was it Sheriffy and you didn't want it to come out about his son or something? Because is that another one that you're protecting?
Not like to see them terrorized, because they already have been enough.
What was Dawn and Candace's state of mind? How was their behavior whenever, the police showed up and they were out looking for Summer? Were they a nervous wreck, like how a parent would be when their child just went missing? Were they calm? Were they nervous? How was their behavior?
Candace, with her, we had the interaction after 6:09, right? And that was really the last interaction I had with her that day. The remainder of her day and night was up there being questioned by law enforcement, being taken in and out, I believe, to try to do the test at night or something, and then it didn't work out.
So Candace tried to go out and do the test, but the polygraph test, but whatever, it didn't work out or whatever. But what she's saying is she didn't have any interaction with Candace besides when she met her, when she very first started searching for Summer, and she seen Candace pulling down the road and heard her talking to Don on the speakerphone. She said that was all the interaction she had with Candace that night because Candace was interacting with law enforcement and searching for Summer.
I don't know, but either way, it was Dawn I interacted with, and the entire community as they filled into the road, and then it was it's all law enforcement.
So she interacted with Dawn and the entire community as they filled in the roads.
And state law enforcement, and then eventually feds and all that throughout the night.
How was their behavior though?
Well, that's the thing. When Dawn eventually gets kind of, because he comes and goes a few times, but then later in the evening, he comes through. We have.
Man, if only we could just get a straight answer from Jodi.
Actually, and they let us all do the Taco Bell stuff I was there, which was a video of me at Taco Bell that night. We had to go back an extra time to get out here. PBR, FBI one's like, you need to dress in here. We're here now. But Dawn, when first found him, it wasn't crazy or anything, but he was already going off on religious bender to an extreme degree. Was calm, kind of resigned.
Yep, and she says the same thing that Fred Hill said about how within a few hours of Summer being missing, that he was talking about the resurrection and her no longer being with us, and speaking of her in past tense. So I don't know if she got that from what she heard about what Fred said, or if she really actually heard Dawn saying stuff like that. Was she over there? Like, how did she hear? I don't know. I have so many questions. Jodi says Don was telling her about dreams he was having about Summer after Summer's disappearance. Jodi says Don does have a religious background, and Don always reaches for religion when something goes wrong. Candace, not so much. Jodi says Robin and David Dotson came up with granola bars and flashlights, and she was like, what the fuck? Why are these people here? And so was Andy, according to Jodi. They didn't think, oh, great, more help. She says they were being weird and crazy to everybody, asking weird, funky-ass questions like, see you next Tuesday kind of shit. And he basically told them to fuck off. She said they were acting weird enough that Andy and the whole community was like, who the fuck are these people? Sorry about the language on that part, but that's what Jodi was saying. She apparently was not happy about the church people coming to help find Summer. Jodi says they let her and her family out to get Taco Bell. She said she has a recording of herself at Taco Bell that night. She says she had to get let back in to get home. She said it remained like that for several days. Rapp asks how the energy between everyone was. Jodi says because the community was so close-knit, it felt something was off. She says it's kind of a mixed bag because a lot of people think Don and Candace did this to Summer. She says a lot of people also think, what if it wasn't the parents? She refers to them as D and C. Jodi says everyone was cooperating and doing their best. Everyone is trying to find the answers and coming together to do that. I don't know what she is talking about here, honestly, because I don't think the community seems to be working together to find Summer in Beech Creek. They seem more closed off than anything. I'm not saying I blame them for being closed off, but if it was me, I would be helping search for sure. Rapp's chat is asking about the footprints that were alleged to have been discovered by search crews. Jodi says at least one of the neighbors spoke out and they were eaten alive. One of the sets of footprints was allegedly confirmed to be true, and the man's property it was on came out and spoke about it and I believe he spoke to the protesters when they were down there last February. Jodi says people are saying the footprints are unfounded like the scream, so she doesn't know what to believe. Jodi says she never ever saw the kids playing in the road. She says sometimes when they were walking home from the school bus, she would see them by the driveway and walking by to pick a flower or something for their mom or for a decoration. But other than that, you didn't see the boys in the road. One of the Wells' other neighbors had come out and said they saw the children playing in the road multiple times. I don't see why someone would lie about that. Jodi says if it is someone in the holler around Beech Creek that has taken Summer, it would be someone in that area where the footprints were, between Ben Hill and there. Jodi says no one takes a little girl to take her to Disney World. Jodi says that a lot. She says that she's realistic and she thinks it could be a worst case scenario type of situation. She said she could be out there being hurt every day. She says she assumes Summer would be somewhere close, probably somewhere between there and Baileyton. She says, but it depends. We're not law enforcement, so we don't hold all the pieces to the puzzle. Not anyone holds everything. We all hold pieces, and they all need put together to figure it out. She says it's like the Carly Trent thing. She knows that's Bull's Gap too, but it's not that far, and people come into Beech Creek to dump bodies. So if it's someone perpetrating a crime, they wouldn't get too far. She says it's just one place, and historically speaking, things have happened. It's a place you don't want to fuck around and find out, says Jodi. Reps chat asks why Jodi never shares Summer's pictures.
Kathy wants to know why you never show Summer's picture.
I do on Facebook and things.
Okay.
Here, I don't share it really on YouTube, and I don't put it up as like my picture or any of that because then it would mean that for me, it's like if you watch the Tragedy Pimps, right? They run her pictures often as they can, like, and put it in their thumbnails and stuff, and it kind of makes me want to fuck them over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do.
I don't want my channel seen because when I speak, it's not just about Summer, it's about domestic violence, our lives, but crimes and all the bullshit that Tragedy Pimps are getting up to and the stuff they're doing around us and have done to us for, 16 months now, because make no mistake, they did call and start inserting themselves within hours.
So she's saying that these Tragedy Pimps started inserting themselves within hours of Summer going missing.
Summer vanishing as soon as the Amber Alert went out, and we had been
as soon as the Amber Alert went out, which was not within hours of her missing. That was within, well, technically, I guess you could say it was within hours, but it wasn't a few hours.
By the pseudo XMIL and all these other things, right? And Candace gets recorded within 2 days talking about the neighbor who heard the scream and all these things,
Right.
And they start hunting us down like prey. So I speak about many things on my channel. And, I don't think it right to use her picture or image. And I think that very much.
Because she says if she uses Summer's picture or image, that she's being a tragedy pimp.
Which belongs to Candace. But on Facebook and other platforms.
Because it belongs to Candace.
Forms I do share it. The thing is, anybody that comes searching for me or clicks over, they know good and well that it's, there's an association there. Mm-hmm. And the way I can help is by using my voice to ask others to share as much as possible on their own platforms. And to use her name, call her by her name, give out the information to TBI, FBI, etc.
Call who by whose name? Summer Moon Utah Wells.
Put out and real media. Right. And people want to come to Tragedy Pimpville for information on her other cases. And that's the way in which I can be useful here.
She can be useful by letting us come to her with all our questions about Summer's case. Get out of town.
And, but on my Facebook, things like that, other forms of social media, I do.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. All right. That was all I had so far. I have the rest of the live we can go over probably tomorrow. And then, I don't know what I'm going to be doing after that, but I'm definitely on Jodi Sue's arse right now, for sure, because Jodi has become my top suspect. I'm not even going to lie. And I can leave it at that for tonight. But before I go, let's just have a moment to look at her beautiful little face. Summer Moon Utah Wells reported missing June 15th, 2021 around 6:30 p.m. out of the Beech Creek community of Hawkins County, Tennessee. She stands about 3.5 feet tall and weighs nearly 40 pounds. If you have any credible tips, you are urged to call 1-800-TBI-FIND. Summer Moon Utah Wells, still missing. Still an active Amber Alert. Justice for Summer Moon Utah Wells. Thank you, Nature Lover. Yo Main Girl. If you guys aren't subbed up to Yo Main Girl, she's a great time. And Nature Lover, you do an amazing job. All right, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much for being here. Jodi Sue Brown, I got my eyes on you, girl, and trust me, I got more content on you than you probably think. All right, good night.